So we are going to be talking about a controversial subject today, but it's been the subject for the last year, since January of 2022. There were rumblings about this, and in February, the actual invasion took place. So here I'm going to actually talk about war, the beast of war. You know, this atrocity that is visited upon us as a species by us. And I'm going to talk to you about also Putin's psychology, which maybe I'm wrong, maybe this is hubris, but I had the guy figured out before the war started. Now, in 2021, if you'd asked me who is Putin, I had no idea. In January, I had it figured out because I am that fast. I'm pretty fast. Um, so, first, what we need to understand is war is the exertion, the use, the exercise of state power on the external environment. You know, whether your state is a country or a tribe or whatever it is, you wage war because you want to suppress, oppress, take, dictate, or control those other parties. All right. Now, the state can also exercise its power internally, and that's what you get in the 2020 crisis. But we're not talking about that here. The second thing you want to understand, you have to really internalize this, get this straight. There is no morality in geopolitics. When it comes to these states, these superstructures, there is no good or evil. If you're trying to look at it through the lens of good and evil, there are two issues that you face here. All right. The first is that most of these people, the people across the table or whatever, they are not moral people. By self-selection, as we've said before, these are psychopaths, generally. The worst kind of people. Second is that even if you are somehow moral, by choosing to look at it through any sort of lens, being the good guy, you are basically committing a sort of unilateral disarmament. You're disarming yourself. You're weakening your own self. So you have to be able to step back and just say, in this arena, there is no good or bad. The only good is what's good for you, unfortunately. Now, this means, from my perspective as a moralist, that the only moral thing to do in a war is not to participate. This is the only moral position, if you want a moral position. Unfortunately, if you don't participate, that increases your chances of just being erased from history forever. So if you want to go a bit further, the correct and moral position in any war, in any situation of war, is to actually, run ahead of everybody and take actions that prevent and preclude any war or bloodshed from taking place. All right? It's that simple. That is the only moral position. Once you're in that arena, it's all bad guys. Okay? I had a quote, a statement I made online in a now deleted account on the first day of the war, Putin's war. I said it and went like this. What we've learned from the 2020 crisis is that one loss of life, any loss of life, is too much. So Zelensky, the clown prince of Ukraine, needs to immediately surrender, just immediately, unilaterally, and prevent anything from happening. Now, Zelensky did not take my advice. I don't think he saw my post. But he should have done that. And you could say, well, what's the deal with that? Well, my personal view is that really, I do the whole golden rule, put yourself in their place or whatever. I don't want to die. Now, somebody else on Reddit was saying, when I posted my opinion, said that I'm a coward First of all, no. Maybe, I don't know. But he like literally called me a coward because I was saying Ukrainians should not die. Bro, I'm still here. I wasn't talking about me. So my opinion is completely separate from me. I was being objective. I was trying to be like, well, maybe they don't want to die. Unfortunately, I guess they do because that's what's going on. Okay. So that's the angle there. I would have liked for little people who have no power, who have no say in how these things go, I would like them to not be subject to the whims of these psychopathic politicians. But unfortunately, they are. Welcome to democracy. So, on Putin's war, how did I figure out what was going to happen back in January, like a month? Was it? I don't. Maybe a little bit before the invasion. There is an article that apparently was required reading for anybody in the Russian forces that was put together in the middle of 2021. Now, Putin is supposed to be the author of this, but I think he just kind of did the outline and had somebody else do the writing because it's a long and kind of boring read. It's got a lot of good parts, but it took me like 3 times. Like on my third attempt, I finally managed to read the whole thing because I always get bogged down in the middle and the 1100s or whatever when he's talking about it. But this article is called "On the Historical Unity of Russians and Ukrainians," and in it, Putin makes, I think, 3 main, points. It's 7,500 words, I think. But the first point is that Russians and Ukrainians share a historical heritage and, among other things, like their religion, their culture, orthodoxy. The second is that for the last 100 years, at the very least, Ukraine, the Ukraine, has been used to attack Russia. Like, it's nothing new. This has been the case for 100 years. And he points out that this has been happening again. And the third point, let me just double check what the third point was. Yes, this is the one that really gets you. He basically argues that the Bolsheviks, the communists of Russia, committed great crimes against the Russian people. He says that in their administration, in their vision of whatever the hell they wanted to do, they really committed grave injustices against the Russian people for many decades. It's not just at a specific time when this breakup happened or that breakup. He says even the way they draw lines on the map was artificial. So in effect, this kind of echoes a lot of the anti-colonialist sentiment. And it is an interesting perspective to look at internal, communists of Russia as internal colonizers. But the point is, this article lays it all flat out. So you can't be confused when people say he's a madman or I don't know what they accuse him of. He's trying to do all kinds of stuff. He's not. He didn't hide it. He was very clear about his perspective and his views. All right. So in effect, the way I see it, the way I saw it, is that Putin sees himself as a great leader, as I don't know Russian history, as Peter the Great or something like that, some great unifier of Russia. Okay, he sees himself as an Alexander the Great. That's his perspective, and he has this kind of I think fascination with history, with his place in it, and it's not reading it. He basically wants to undo the mistakes of the spineless criminals that abused his beloved motherland or fatherland. I don't know what, I think they call it a fatherland, Russia. So that's Putin in a nutshell. So what you have, now maybe I'm wrong, but again, this is my analysis of his character, is the sort of leader who is trying to bring his personal virtues, into reality. I said in my video on power that we don't live in a virtuous world. We live in a world that is just dictated by power. And if you wanted to have a world of virtue, the only hope you have is to keep your fingers crossed and hope that people in power have virtue. Doesn't happen that often. So I think at the very least, he is trying to bring his virtues into the real world. Across the table, on the other side, it's unfortunate whatever is happening to Ukrainians. They've had their country decimated. They've had so many people killed, so many people fleeing as refugees. But on the other side of the table, what you have are virtue signalers, people who are politicians who don't have any actual competence at anything. So all they do, and they don't have beliefs, they don't have virtues. So all they do is virtue signal and pretend to have all kinds of morals they're trying to uphold. We're trying to save democracy, is what they say. Okay, Zelensky is he's a piece of work, put it that way. So you get the infamous quote from our guy in Davos now, which is, weapons are the way to peace. So this is who you're dealing with. So, I mean, you can choose whatever side, it doesn't matter. As I said, there are no good guys or bad guys. There's only power, okay? Personally, this is my opinion. I do not like war. Because I have one life. And if it gets taken over some stupid person's war, that's bad for me. I don't know about anybody else. Maybe some people would celebrate. Got a lot of haters. But that's bad for me. I reject violence in all its forms. I reject a world order where people, regular people, are pawns, where we are the firewood that fuels a war machine. I think it's a tragedy when the individual, now this is why I like Ayn Rand, where the individual is asked to sacrifice everything, your whole life, what else is there, for pathetic, spineless, power-hungry hypocrites, two-faced snakes, black-faced snakes, some of them, no, not racist, but some of these guys, they like to wear blackface and then pretend that the other people are racist. Y'all might know who I'm talking about. So I'll leave you with George Orwell and his quote, "War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength." That's who we're dealing with here. Good luck.